Hello, my name is Noah Raystan, and this is my critical introduction to my reading reflection. So, the two assignments/activities that I've selected that I believe demonstrate my engagement with THECB SLOs and writing practices and behaviors are the annotated bibliography and peer review and critical thinking presentation. So, first off, we have the annotated bibliography and peer review. So, the annotated bibliography is a series of annotations in MLA format that we have made to the four texts that we have read throughout the first 7 weeks. So throughout the annotated bibliography, we made two types of annotations. First is a summary annotation, where basically we summarize the main points of an article we have read. And second is an analytical annotation, which is basically a personal connection to the article, where we reflect on what we learned and how we can employ the reading and writing strategies that we have learned into our own reading and writing in the future. There's also an optional annotation, which involves the analysis of an author's use of rhetoric in their writing. And this can be done, for example, by analyzing how an author uses rhetoric throughout the writing to convey the effectiveness of the reading and writing strategies that they offer. To the right is an example of an annotated bibliography. This is the introductory cover letter to my annotated bibliography. And notice how it is in MLA format. Uh, Text. So the texts we have read throughout the first 7 weeks include Critical Thinking in College Writing, From the Personal to the Academic by Gita Dasbender, Reading Games, Strategies for Reading Scholarly Sources by Karen Rosenberg, How to Read Like a Writer by Mike Bunn, and Changing Your Mindset About Revision by Lenny L. Irvin. Um, Reading these texts have given me incredibly useful tips and strategies for reading and writing. Through reading these texts, I've learned more about, first of all, critical thinking. So by reading Gita Dasbender's article on critical thinking, I've learned that critical thinking is a process of asking questions and making a personal connection to the text that you're reading. In this way, you gain a deeper understanding of the message that the article is trying to convey. Second, I've learned that going to a lengthy scholarly article with a set or a list of what you tend to learn from reading that article makes significantly shortens the reading session and makes it more effective and efficient, as opposed to going into an article blindly and not knowing what to look for. This can make you end up lost, and you end up spending more time than you would have to, than if you knew what to look for in the text. Um, Next, we have analyzing writing strategies. So I've learned that by closely analyzing the writing choices that an author makes throughout their text, um, I'm introduced to several different writing strategies that I could potentially incorporate into my own writing in the future. And lastly, I've learned that revision is an important process where which does not merely include fixing a couple grammatical errors, but involves making complete separate drafts that you would choose from in the making of your final draft. I've also learned that uh, putting your thoughts and ideas down on paper on the first try is nearly impossible, and through that I've learned the importance of the revision process. So throughout the making of my annotated bibliography, I engaged in multiple THECB SLOs and writing behaviors and practices. Uh, First of all, I engaged in oral and written communication, and revision and feedback through peer reviews. Uh, so in class, after we finished our annotated bibliography, we printed them out on paper and exchanged them with our classmates. There, we provided written feedback on our classmates' papers based on whether or not they followed MLA formatting or the paragraphs had the right amount of sentences and stuff like that. And that helps with us engage in the revision process by following that provided feedback and making corrections to any mistakes that we might have made, uh, which will help create a good final draft that we could submit. Next, we engage in critical thinking through asking questions about the selected articles or the assigned articles and the reading strategies that they offer and how we can incorporate them into our own writing in the future. Uh, we also engage in rhetorical awareness by analyzing how different authors use rhetoric in their writing to convey the effectiveness of their suggested strategies. To the left is an example of written feedback that we provided to our classmates. We also engaged in the writing and reading process by employing strategies that we have learned through the articles that we have read and to the annotations that we have made for them. So, as in the personal example, I've used the strategy provided by Mike Bunn of paying close attention to the writing choices that author makes throughout their text, and through that, I've had my mind open to various different writing strategies that I incorporated in writing my annotations uh, for the later articles that we read later out throughout 7 weeks. And then lastly, we engaged in inquiry and information literacy through asking questions in the introductory cover letter. So what I mean by that, to the right is an example of the two questions. My two questions, which were found in the introductory cover letter of my annotated bibliography. Um, Next up, we have that critical thinking presentation. So the critical thinking presentation was a short group assignment where an assigned group of two worked on a PowerPoint presentation that clearly explained either an SLO or writing practice and behavior. Um, as if we were explaining it to an audience that knew very little about the course or the assignments that we have selected for our reading reflection. Um, Throughout this assignment, we have also engaged in THECB SLOs and writing behaviors and practices by engaging in, first of all, by engaging in teamwork, by working on this presentation with a partner. I worked on this presentation with my partner, Annabella. We also engaged in visual communication as we use visual aids as examples to support our explanation. Uh, on the upper right is an example of how we use a visual aid. Here we use this as an example of how we would use critical thinking to decipher that this is a scam egg. And then lastly, we engaged in personal responsibility by making sure that I did my part in making the PowerPoint and giving the oral presentation my selected slides. Lastly, the two questions I have about reading, writing, and thinking are: could I employ the strategies that we have learned through the assigned readings for the annotated bibliography in other genres? Um, what I mean by this is uh, in one of the articles by Karen Rosenberg, she provides strategies for reading scholarly articles, and I was wondering if we can apply that to other genres. And if not, how should I approach reading lengthy but non-scholarly articles? Um, this was my critical introduction to my reading reflection. Thank you for listening.